Drummerly.com Unlimited Drama Series.
You know what they say about family businesses? They're like a loaded gun with the safety off, just waiting for someone to pull the trigger. In my case, that gun was Parrish Electric, and I'd been staring down the barrel for 15 years without realizing it. My name is James Tate, and I used to think I had it all figured out. 42 years old, co-owner of a thriving electrical contracting company, married to Beth for 16 years, father to two beautiful daughters. The American dream, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. It was a Tuesday morning in October when I first noticed the cracks in my perfect little world. Beth was standing at the kitchen counter, her blonde hair catching the morning light as she scrolled through her phone. She'd been doing that a lot lately, always on that damn phone, always smiling at something I couldn't see. "Morning, honey," I said, grabbing my coffee mug, the one that read "World's Best Dad" that Bew had given me for Father's Day 3 years ago. Beth barely looked up. "Morning." Her fingers kept dancing across the screen, typing something that made her lips curve into a smile I hadn't seen directed at me in months. "Who's got you so entertained this early?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Just Sarah from book club. She's being dramatic about her husband again." The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly, I almost believed it. Almost. See, here's the thing about being an electrician for 23 years. You learn to spot faulty wiring. And my marriage was throwing off sparks that screamed fire hazard. I kissed the top of her head, inhaling the scent of her shampoo mixed with something else, something that smelled like cologne. Not my cologne. "I'll be late tonight," she said, finally looking at me with those green eyes that used to make my heart race. Now they just made my stomach clench. "Book club is discussing that new thriller everyone's talking about." "Which thriller?" I asked. She paused for just a beat too long. "The one about the cheating husband who gets what he deserves." The irony wasn't lost on me. It just hadn't hit me yet how prophetic those words would be. At Parrish Electric headquarters, a converted warehouse on the south side of town that smelled perpetually of copper wire and coffee, I found my brother John holding court in the break room. At 45, John had always been the golden boy. Taller, more charismatic, with that easy smile that made clients trust him instantly. He ran the residential division while I handled commercial contracts. "Morning, Jimmy," he called out, using the nickname I'd hated since childhood. "You look like hell. Beth keeping you up at night?" He winked at the guys, and they chuckled like trained seals. "Something like that," I muttered, pouring myself another cup of coffee. Mary and Joanne, our executive assistants, and the unofficial gossip headquarters of Parrish Electric, exchanged one of their looks. These two women knew everything that happened in our little corner of the world before it actually happened. "James, honey," Mary said in her motherly tone, "you've been looking tired lately. Everything okay at home?" Before I could answer, John clapped me on the shoulder. "My little brother's just working too hard. Always has. Remember when we were kids, Mom? Jimmy would stay up all night reading while I was out having fun." Our mother, Ruth Parrish, emerged from her office like a queen surveying her domain. At 73, she still owned 60% of the company and had a mind sharp enough to cut glass. "John, stop calling your brother Jimmy. He's 42 years old." She turned to me with those steel gray eyes. "James, you do look peaked. Maybe you should take Beth on a vacation. When's the last time you two had some time alone?" The question hit me like a live wire. When was the last time? I couldn't remember. Lately, every time I suggested we do something together, Beth had an excuse. Book club, yoga class, helping her sister with something. Always something. "We're fine, Mom," I said. "Just busy season, you know." But I wasn't fine. And as the day wore on, the feeling in my gut grew stronger. Something was wrong. Very wrong. That evening, Beth was getting ready for her book club when I noticed she'd changed clothes 3 times. She finally settled on a black dress that hugged her curves in all the right places, the same dress she'd worn on our anniversary 2 years ago. "Isn't that a little fancy for book club?" I asked. She spun around, and for a moment I saw panic flash across her face. "This old thing? I just felt like dressing up. Is that a crime?" "Of course not. You look beautiful." And she did. That was the hell of it. After 16 years of marriage, Beth could still take my breath away. Too bad I was apparently the only one not taking hers anymore. After she left, I sat in my recliner, nursing a beer and trying to focus on the baseball game. But my mind kept wandering. The phone calls that ended when I walked into the room. The way she'd started showering as soon as she got home from her errands. The credit card bills showing charges at restaurants I'd never been to. Around 10:30, I decided to clean up the kitchen. That's when I found it. Beth's laptop, left open on the counter. She never left it out. Never. I shouldn't have looked. Any decent husband would have closed it and walked away. But I wasn't feeling particularly decent that night. The screen showed her email inbox. Most of it was the usual stuff: shopping newsletters, school updates about the girls, appointment confirmations. But one sender name made my blood freeze. j.tate.residential@pariselectric.com. John's work email. I clicked on the thread, and my world tilted on its axis. Can't wait to see you tonight. Same place as always. J. Me too. James is getting suspicious, so we need to be more careful. B. Let him suspect. I'm tired of sneaking around. Maybe it's time he knew the truth. Not yet. I need more time to figure out the girl's situation. And the business. We can't let him ruin everything we've worked for. B. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through weeks of messages, months of them, plans for secret meetings, discussions about my work schedule, references to a storage unit I'd never heard of. And then I found the folder. Hidden in her documents, labeled innocuously as recipes, was a collection of photos and videos that made my stomach turn. Beth and John, in hotel rooms, in what looked like John's truck, and worst of all, in my bed. My fucking bed. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark kitchen for a long time, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of traffic. 15 years of marriage, 23 years of working side by side with my brother, all of it built on lies. But here's the thing about being an electrician. When you find a short circuit, you don't just live with it, you fix it. And sometimes, fixing it means burning the whole system down and starting over. I opened the laptop again and began copying files to a flash drive. Every email, every photo, every dirty little secret they thought they'd hidden. As I worked, a strange calm settled over me. The hurt was still there, raw and bleeding, but underneath it, something else was growing. Something cold and calculating and patient. They thought they were so clever, my wife and my brother. They thought they could play me for a fool while they planned their little coup. Because that's what this was, wasn't it? Not just an affair, but a takeover. Beth had always resented that I made more money than her friends' husbands. John had always been jealous that Mom trusted me with the commercial contracts. Well, they were about to learn something about James Tate that they'd forgotten in all their scheming. I might not be the golden boy. I might not be the charming one, or the popular one, but I was the one who paid attention. I was the one who planned ahead, and I was the one who never ever forgot a slight. When Beth came home at midnight, smelling like wine and lies, I was waiting in the living room with a smile on my face. How was book club? I asked. Oh, same old drama. She avoided my eyes as she kicked off her heels. I'm exhausted, going straight to bed. Beth? I called as she reached the stairs. Yeah? I love you. She paused, her hand on the banister, and for just a moment, I saw something that might have been guilt cross her face. I love you too, James. Another lie. But that was okay, because in about 48 hours, the lying would be over. For all of us. I had a dinner party to plan. Nothing says family gathering like a home-cooked meal and a side of nuclear devastation. I spent the next day making calls, playing the part of the devoted husband and brother, who just wanted to bring everyone together for a nice dinner. Mom, how about you and Dad come over Saturday night? I'm making that pot roast you love. Easy sell? Ruth Parrish never turned down her son's cooking. John, bring Linda and the kids. I feel like we haven't all been together in too long. A little harder, since John had been avoiding family dinners lately. Probably afraid he'd slip up and call my wife something other than sister-in-law. Beth's parents too, I told my wife as she sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through her phone again. I know your mom's been wanting to see the girls. Beth looked up. Up sharply. All of them? Here? That's a lot of people, James. What's wrong? Afraid you might say something you shouldn't? I kept my voice light, but I saw her flinch. Don't be ridiculous. I just think it might be overwhelming. Nonsense. Family should stick together, don't you think? Through thick and thin, good times and bad, adultery and betrayal. I let the last words trail off casually, as if I were still talking about general family values. Beth's face went pale. What did you say? I said family should stick together. Why? What did you think I said? A. She stared at me for a long moment, those green eyes searching my face for something. Whatever she was looking for, she didn't find it. Nothing. Saturday sounds fine. The beauty of being underestimated your whole life is that people never see you coming. Beth thought I was the same oblivious husband I'd been for 16 years. John thought I was still the little brother he could push around. They were both about to get a very rude awakening. Saturday evening arrived with all the warmth of a funeral. I'd spent the day cooking, cleaning, and setting up what I like to think of as the Last Supper. The dining room table was extended to its full length, set with our best china and the good silverware we only used for special occasions. And this was definitely a special occasion. By 6 o'clock, everyone had arrived. My parents, Ruth and Harold, John with his wife Linda and their twin boys, Beth's parents, Margaret and Robert, our daughters, Beau and Bree, excited to have all their grandparents in one place. It was like a Norman Rockwell painting, if Norman Rockwell had painted scenes of domestic warfare. James, this looks wonderful, Margaret gushed, admiring the table setting. You've outdone yourself. Well, I wanted tonight to be memorable, I said, catching John's eye across the room. He was standing by the fireplace, looking nervous and checking his watch, probably wondering if he could make an excuse to leave early. Linda, John's wife, looked tired. She'd been looking tired a lot lately, I realized. Dark circles under her eyes, a certain brittle quality to her smile. I wondered how much she suspected about her husband's extracurricular activities. Uncle James, can we watch a movie after dinner? Asked one of John's boys. I could never tell the twins apart. Actually, I have something special planned for after dinner. A little family presentation. I smiled at Beth, who was helping her mother with her coat. Something I think everyone will find very illuminating. Dinner conversation flowed like wine, which was good, because I'd made sure there was plenty of wine. I wanted everyone relaxed, comfortable, unsuspecting. Beth seemed to be drinking more than usual, which was perfect. Liquid courage for what was coming. So John, Ruth said, cutting into her pot roast, how's the residential division doing? You've been working such long hours lately. John nearly choked on his wine. Oh, you know, busy season. Lots of after-hours meetings. I'll bet, I said quietly, and Beth shot me a sharp look. James has been working late too, Beth said quickly. Haven't you, honey? All those commercial projects. Actually, I've been getting home earlier lately. Funny thing, I drove by the Marriott on 5th Street Thursday night around 9. Thought I saw John's truck in the parking lot. I took a sip of wine, watching John's face turn an interesting shade of red. But that couldn't be right. You said you were at the Henderson job site until 10. The table went quiet. Even the kids sensed something was wrong. Must have been someone else's truck, John said, his voice tight. Must have been, I agreed. Though it's amazing how many trucks look like yours these days. Same make, model, even the same dent in the tailgate from when you backed into Mom's mailbox last Christmas. Linda was staring at her husband now, a frown creasing her forehead. John, you didn't mention going to any hotel Thursday night. Because I didn't. James is mistaken. Oh, I'm sure I am, I said, standing up. In fact, I'm wrong about a lot of things lately, which is why I thought tonight would be a perfect time to clear the air, get everything out in the open. I walked over to the entertainment center and picked up my laptop. I hope everyone saved room for dessert, because I have something sweet to share. Beth was on her feet now, her face white as the tablecloth. James, what are you doing? Just a little family slideshow, sweetheart. You know how much I love documenting our memories. I connected the laptop to our big screen TV and opened the folder I'd prepared. Now, some of these might be a bit adult in nature. Kids, why don't you go play in the basement for a few minutes? Dad, what's going on? Beau asked, looking between her mother and me with worried eyes. Just some boring grown-up stuff, honey. Take your brother and your cousins downstairs. I'll call you when we're ready for ice cream. The kids left reluctantly, and I waited until I heard their footsteps on the basement stairs before turning back to my audience. 8 adults, all staring at me with various expressions of confusion, concern, and growing dread. Now then, I said, clicking to the first slide. Let's start with some text messages, shall we? The first screenshot appeared on the screen. one of John's emails to Beth, complete with timestamp and explicit content. The room erupted like a volcano. Jesus Christ, Harold muttered. Oh my God, Linda whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. Margaret started crying. Ruth looked like she might faint. Robert was staring at the screen with the expression of a man watching a train wreck in slow motion. But I wasn't done, not even close. This is from 3 weeks ago, I said conversationally, clicking to the next slide. But don't worry, it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective. More emails, text messages, photos that left nothing to the imagination. With each click, the room grew quieter, until the only sounds were Margaret's sobs and the tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. Beth was crying now, mascara streaming down her cheeks. James, please, stop this. Stop? I looked at her with genuine surprise. But we're just getting to the good part, the video. John lunged toward the laptop, but I was ready for him. I grabbed his wrist and twisted, using a move I'd learned in high school wrestling. He
187 messages to your gym partner? She's just a friend. Don't send photos like.
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
yelped and stumbled backward into his chair. Sit down, brother. You're going to want to see this. The video started playing. Beth and John, in my bed, in my house, while I was at a job site in Cleveland. The audio was crystal clear. Every moan, every whispered endearment, every promise they made to each other about their future together. Linda stood up so fast her chair fell over. She grabbed her purse and headed for the door without a word. Linda, wait, John called after her. Don't, she said without turning around. Don't you dare follow me. The front door slammed with a sound like a gunshot. Ruth was the next to speak, her voice shaking with rage. John Michael Tate, what have you done? Mom, I can explain. Explain what? Explain how you betrayed your brother, your family, your marriage vows? She turned to Beth with eyes like ice chips. And you. I welcomed you into this family. I treated you like my own daughter. Ruth, please, Beth sobbed. It just happened. We didn't plan it. I clicked to another slide, a screenshot of an email dated 6 months ago, detailing their plans to wait until after the busy season to tell me about the affair. Didn't plan it, huh? This says otherwise. Harold stood up, his face red with anger. That's enough. We're leaving. Actually, Dad, I think you should stay, because this isn't just about adultery. I clicked to a new folder. It's also about embezzlement. The room went dead silent. See, while I was playing the fool, John here was playing fast and loose with company funds, hotel rooms charged to business accounts, expensive dinners written off as client meetings, even a weekend in Chicago that was supposedly a trade conference. I smiled at John, who looked like he was about to throw up. Funny thing about that trade conference, I called the hotel. They have no record of any electrical contractors conference that weekend. But they do have security footage of John checking in with a blonde woman who looks remarkably like my wife. You son of a bitch, John snarled, starting to rise from his chair. Sit down, Ruth snapped, and something in her voice made him freeze. James, how much money are we talking about? Roughly $15,000 over the past 8 months. Not enough to bankrupt us, but enough to constitute felony fraud in this state. Beth was hyperventilating now, her sobs turning to gasps. Margaret was trying to comfort her, but her own tears were making it difficult. What do you want, James? John asked quietly. I closed the laptop and looked around the table at the wreckage of my family. Want? I don't want anything, John. I've already taken it. What does that mean? It means that as of this morning, your employment with Parish Electric has been terminated. It means I've filed for divorce and am seeking full custody of the girls. It means I've turned over all the financial evidence to our accountant and our lawyer. I picked up my wine glass and took a sip. It means you're fucked, brother. Completely and utterly fucked. The silence stretched out like a wire under tension, ready to snap. Finally, Robert cleared his throat. We should go, he said, helping Margaret to her feet. This is too much. As Beth's parents gathered their things, Margaret turned to her daughter one last time. How could you do this to him? To your children? Beth had no answer. What answer could there be? After everyone left, it was just Beth, me, and the girls, who had crept back upstairs during the chaos. They stood in the doorway, wide-eyed and confused. Mom? Bree whispered. What's happening? Beth looked at me, her eyes pleading. For the first time in months, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Your mother and I need to have a talk, I said gently. Why don't you girls go to your rooms for a while? They left reluctantly, and Beth collapsed into her chair, her face buried in her hands. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, James. No, I said, beginning to clear the table. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. That's not true. I love you. I've always loved you. I stopped stacking plates and looked at her. Really looked at her. The woman I'd married, the mother of my children, the person I'd trusted more than anyone in the world. If you loved me, you wouldn't have fucked my brother in our bed. If you loved me, you wouldn't have spent months planning how to destroy my life. If you loved me, you wouldn't have stolen from my family's business to fund your affair. We were going to pay it back. With what money? John's about to lose his job, his wife, and probably his house when Linda's lawyer gets done with him. You're about to lose everything too. So tell me, Beth, what exactly were you going to pay it back with? She had no answer for that either. I finished clearing the table while she sat there crying. When I was done, I poured myself another glass of wine and sat down across from her. Here's what's going to happen, I said calmly. You're going to pack a bag tonight and go stay with your sister. The girls will stay here with me. My lawyer will be in touch about the divorce proceedings and the custody arrangement. James, please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. Counseling? I laughed, and it came out harsher than I intended. Beth, you recorded yourself fucking my brother and kept the videos on your laptop. You planned this betrayal for months. You stole from my family. There's no counseling for that. There's only consequences. She looked up at me with those green eyes, still beautiful, even red-rimmed with tears. What about the girls? They need their mother. The girls need a mother they can respect. Right now, that's not you. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the street where I'd lived for 12 years. Where I'd thought I was building a life, a legacy, a future. All of it built on lies. You have 1 hour to pack, I said without turning around. After that, I'm changing the locks. I heard her chair scrape against the floor, heard her footsteps on the stairs. An hour later, she was gone, and I was alone in the house that suddenly felt both too big and too small. But this was just the beginning. Beth and John thought their world had ended tonight, but they were wrong. Tonight was just the appetizer. The main course was still coming, and I was going to make sure they choked on every bite. The next morning, I woke up in my empty bed and felt something I hadn't experienced in months: peace. For the first time in forever, I didn't have to wonder where Beth was or what she was doing. I knew exactly where she was, at her sister's house, probably crying into her coffee and trying to figure out how to spin this disaster into something that wasn't entirely her fault. The girls were quiet at breakfast, picking at their cereal and shooting worried glances in my direction. Beau, my 15-year-old, finally broke the silence. Dad, is Mom coming back? I set down my coffee mug and looked at both my daughters. They deserved honesty, even if it hurt. Not to live here, sweetheart. Your mom and I are getting divorced. Because of what we saw last night? Bree asked, her 13-year-old voice small and scared. Because your mother made some very bad choices, but that doesn't change how much we both love you. What about Uncle John? Beau asked. That was a harder question. How do you explain to your children that their uncle, who'd taught them to ride bikes and taken them fishing, was a lying, cheating bastard who'd helped destroy their family? Uncle John won't be coming around for a while, I said carefully. But we'll be okay, I promise. After I dropped the girls at school, I drove to Parish Electric with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. Mary and Joanne were already at their desks, but they went quiet when I walked in. Word traveled fast in our little corner of the world. Morning, ladies, I said, pouring myself coffee from the pot that had been brewing since 5 a.m. Oh, honey, Mary said, her motherly instincts kicking in. How are you holding up? Better than expected, actually. Is Mom in yet? Conference room, Joanne said quietly, with the lawyers. I found Ruth sitting at the head of the conference table, her reading glasses perched on her nose, as she reviewed documents with our attorney, David Kramer, and our accountant, Susan Mills. She looked up when I entered, her expression unreadable. James, sit down. I took a seat across from David, who'd been our family lawyer for 20 years. He'd handled everything from contract disputes to Ruth's estate planning. Now he was handling the dismantling of my marriage and my brother's career. I've reviewed the evidence you provided, David said without preamble. It's comprehensive. I'm thorough when I need to be. The financial irregularities alone are enough to terminate John's employment and pursue criminal charges if we choose to. Ruth leaned back in her chair, I built this company from nothing. Your father and I started with a pickup truck and a toolbox, and we turned it into something worth $3 million. I will not let anyone, family or not, destroy what we've built." "What are you saying, Mom?" "I'm saying John is out, effective immediately. His access to company accounts has been revoked, his company credit cards canceled, his office cleaned out." Her voice was steel wrapped in velvet. "As for criminal charges, that's up to you. He's your brother." I thought about it for a moment. John sitting in a jail cell would be satisfying, but it would also be quick. Over in a few months with good behavior. I had something more permanent in mind. No criminal charges, but I want him blacklisted from every electrical contractor in the tri-state area. I want his reputation destroyed so thoroughly that he couldn't get hired to change a light bulb. Ruth smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Consider it done." Susan, our accountant, cleared her throat. "There's another matter we need to discuss. With John gone, we need someone to take over the residential division immediately. We have contracts worth over $500,000 that need supervision." "I'll handle it," I said. "James, that's a lot of additional responsibility," Ruth warned. "You're already managing the commercial side." "I can handle it. Besides, I know John's clients. Most of them trust me more than they trusted him anyway." That wasn't entirely true, but it would be by the time I was done. John might have been the charming one, but I was the one who actually knew the business inside and out. By noon, word had spread through the company like wildfire. John Tate was out, and nobody was quite sure why. I let the speculation build for a few hours before calling an all-hands meeting. The warehouse floor was packed with electricians, office staff, and supervisors, about 40 people total. These were good people, hard-working folks, who'd been loyal to Parish Electric for years. They deserved to know the truth. "I'm sure you've all heard rumors about John's departure," I began, standing on a makeshift platform made of electrical supply crates. "I want to set the record straight." The room was dead quiet. You could have heard a wire nut drop. "John Tate was terminated this morning for embezzlement and breach of fiduciary duty. Over the past 8 months, he used company funds for personal expenses totaling approximately $15,000. A murmur ran through the crowd. 15 grand wasn't enough to sink the company, but it was enough to buy a lot of groceries, pay a lot of bills, cover a lot of car payments for the people standing in front of me. Additionally, John violated his employment agreement by engaging in an affair with my wife, using company time and resources to facilitate their relationship. The murmur became a roar. Everyone started talking at once, voices raised in shock and anger. I held up my hand for quiet. "I know this is a lot to process. John was family, and his betrayal cuts deep. But Parish Electric is bigger than any one person, including John, including me. We have work to do, clients to serve, and bills to pay. So here's what's going to happen." I outlined the transition plan, assigning John's projects to other supervisors and promoting 2 senior electricians to fill the gaps. By the time I was done, the shock was wearing off and being replaced by something else: loyalty. These people had seen their boss get screwed over by his own brother, and they were rallying around me. "Any questions?" I asked. Tommy Rodriguez, one of our best residential guys, raised his hand. "What about John's clients? Some of them might be upset about the change." "Let me worry about the clients. Your job is to do the work you've always done, the best electrical work in the city. The clients will see that quality speaks louder than charm." After the meeting, Mary and Joanne cornered me in my office. "Honey, we are so sorry," Mary said, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "We had no idea John was stealing from the company. But we did suspect something was going on with him and Beth," Joanne admitted. "The way they looked at each other at the Christmas party, the way they'd both disappear during company events. Why didn't you say anything?" The 2 women exchanged glances. "It wasn't our place," Mary said finally, "and we hoped we were wrong." "Well, you weren't, but that's not your fault. It's theirs." That evening, I was reviewing John's client files when my phone rang. The caller ID showed John's number. "Hello, brother," I answered. "James, we need to talk. I think we said everything that needed saying last night. Please, just give me 5 minutes. I'll come to the house. You'll stay the hell away from my house, and away from my daughters. They're my nieces. They're the children of the man you betrayed. You lost the right to call them family when you decided to fuck my wife." There was a long pause. When John spoke again, his voice was different, harder. "You think you've won, don't you? You think you can just destroy my life and walk away clean? I think I can destroy your life because you handed me the tools to do it. Every hotel receipt, every stolen dollar, every lie you told. You gave me all of it. I know things about you too, James. Things that could ruin you just as easily. I leaned back in my chair, genuinely curious. Such as the Morrison job, the shortcuts you took with the wiring to save money, the safety violations you covered up. I started laughing. I couldn't help it. John, you pathetic bastard. I didn't take shortcuts on the Morrison job. You did. And I documented every single violation, every corner you cut, every safety protocol you ignored. It's all in your personnel file, along with my written warnings that you chose to ignore. The silence on the other end was deafening. You see, that's the difference between us, I continued. You think with your dick and hope for the best. I think 3 moves ahead and document everything. So please, by all means, try to blackmail me. I'd love to see how that works out for you. This isn't over, James. Yes, it is. You just don't know it yet. I hung up and went back to the client files. 3 moves ahead, just like I'd told him. John was thinking about revenge, but I was already implementing it. The next morning, I started making house calls to John's biggest clients. The Hendersons, who were having their whole house rewired. The Kowalskis, who'd hired us to upgrade their electrical panel. The Martins, who were building a new garage with a full workshop. Mr. Henderson, I wanted to personally apologize for the disruption in your project. John Tate is no longer with the company, but I'm going to personally oversee the completion of your rewiring. What happened to John? He seemed like such a nice young man. Personnel matters are confidential, but I can assure you that Parrish Electric stands behind our work 100%. In fact, I'm going to honor John's original quote even though material costs have gone up since he bid the job. By